Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor. I'm the man on the Silver Mountain. Welcome back. Now, a lot of the time, the I spend talking with friends and things like that. Almost every conversation, to one extent or another, especially amongst my younger friends as well, turns towards relationships because they know what I do and they know the experience that I have and the knowledge that I have, and so it always kind of rolls round to eventually talking about this kind of stuff. And as a result, there are some questions that almost always pop up every conversation. Kind of something arises and it causes these questions to rumble out. And so as a result, I wanted to just answer some of them here, because if my friends are asking me, if random people that I meet, friends of friends and whoever else, are the ones that kind of throw these questions at me, there's a good chance that you guys probably have these questions that you want to ask as well, but don't necessarily have someone to ask them of, or don't feel comfortable asking them. So I figured I'd preempt you and get in here and ask some of these. So, right, let's start off. First one that I tend to get a fair amount of is, what's the reason why so many relationships just break up? Why do they? Why can people not work? If what I say is true, when I'm going, well, there's no such thing as a soulmate. There's no such, love's just a chemical reaction in your brain and your body. Anyone can be with anyone. All they need to do is find a way to make it work. If that's the case, then why are there so many relationships that just break down and they're in trouble? And the simple answers to that kind of come in four parts. The first, the kind of main answer is that, well, yeah, you can be with anyone and you could probably make it work with anyone, but that doesn't mean that you will. Yeah, just because the potential is there doesn't mean the potential will be realized. And so when it comes to why they break down, as I've said in other videos, this kind of comes down to communication problems. Communication is a huge part of relationships, whether they are face-to-face, long distance, open kind of relationships or anything like that. Communication is the core of it, because we can't read each other's minds. We can't always tell how the other person is feeling just by the way they look or the way they sound. So communication, and good communication, is key. And if that isn't there, things start to crumble, things start to break down. Then on top of that, moving on to the next point, the next reason, you've got things like a lack of awareness. People, one side of the relationship thinking things are going fine, probably also due to a lack of good communication between them and their partner. But they think it's going fine, they think everything's great, and or it seems to all be about one person, and there's no awareness of how actually it's not great for the other person. And this is where you get a lot of things like people blaming each other and flying off the handle because it's always one person or the other person. It's never them talking things out and working together on a situation. Which again also rolls into the next thing, which is kind of a lack of boundaries and understanding. So everyone needs their boundaries. It doesn't matter how close you are to your partner, there have to be boundaries there. Yeah, not everyone feels that love means the same thing as well, and things like that. And boundaries around that aren't always well devised. They're not always concrete, and so it's where those boundaries break down, or where people just don't realize they exist, or in the case of understanding generally, if someone says I love you and then you say I love you back, there's a good chance that you two mean potentially different things, unless you worked out that actually you have this unified kind of position on what you mean when you say that to each other. And that's where, when some people go, oh, well, you wear out the words if you say I love you, I love you, I love you again and again and again, can be true. In a lot of cases is true. But in regards to if you've actually worked out what you mean by it between the two of you, then when it comes to saying it over and over and over again, potentially it can just be a big signifier of feeling, want to be together and whatever else. And so it'll thinking of each other, and it won't wear out because the meaning has been made solid. The meaning has been made robust, and so the meaning won't wear out when the signifier is dropped. And then the last one, and this is one that's just pretty straightforward and easy. It's the lack of commitment. Yeah, if you've got people who are in relationships but all they're doing is languishing there, or you've got people who are in relationships but they're still kind of playing the field, looking around for what else they can have, then there's a good chance that the relationship isn't going to go anywhere. Whether it's both of them, whether it's one of them, then it can be all manner of different things, different combinations and different structures. But if there isn't any commitment there, or if there's no confidence in the two of them being together between the two of them, then you're kind of potentially running straight into a brick wall in regards to kind of how that relationship's going to run forward. And so as a result, the kind of, what are the reasons why so many relationships break up? Well, those are the four: lack of awareness, a lack of understanding, lack of communication, and potentially a lack of commitment. If you've got all four, then you're basically not in a relationship with that person to one degree or another. You're just kind of hovering around together. And then in regards to kind of, okay, so those are all the reasons, but why are those reasons so prevalent? Why are they cropping up so much, so that in the UK by itself 42% of relationships, of marriages, end up in divorce and stuff like that? Well, that's simple. We live in a world at the moment that is very very fast paced. It's very self-focused in various ways, and things like awareness, which we've also touched on in videos this week, boundaries, which we've also touched on or will be touching on, and kind of commitment and communication. We are the most communicative we've ever been, and yet we do it all by not interacting with other people. Yeah, not directly anyway. It's all through a messaging system that you can pick up and put down whenever you like. It's through a form of digital media that can be paused. It's through phone calls are becoming even more rare over time, and actually being able to meet the person, see the person, deal with them directly is still kind of slowly dying out in a lot of places. And sometimes those technologies are used to great effect to bolster relationships and improve them, but a lot of times they're causing erosion, and it's becoming this thing generally where people are becoming more distant from each other, even though we are far more connected to one another. And so when it comes to the kind of why are they so prevalent, it is a lot of things, but one of the kind of most significant, I feel, is that whilst we are better connected, we are being driven apart by it. Yeah. When movements become incredibly political and drive wedges between people through social media, or when you can see the entirety of someone's life on social media, not just their good bits and a couple of bad bits where they maybe asked for some support, but like every meal they have, every place they go, every movie and TV show that they watch. When all of those things are on social media for people all the time, you become overly familiar, become overly critical. And especially between partners, be they right next to each other all the time or not. This is where there was a time where it would be a case of, oh, well, you've come back from work and you're talking to another woman on the phone. That's not a big deal necessarily, because it's work and you're just finishing off before you relax for the evening. But then there are so many things online where you see that someone has an issue with that, where partners will call each other out for seeing them with other people on social media. Sometimes they are catching people out, but sometimes it's just paranoia. And that over familiarity, familiarity in and of itself breeds love, breeds affection, breeds kind of closeness. But if too much of a good thing ends up ruining it. And so you get right in close on that person, and you're seeing their entire life laid out before you in pictures and text. Then, firstly, your mind is still distant from that person. They're not a real person all the time there, because there's a whole load of their life that you're monitoring that is just simulated, essentially. And so, I feel like that's where some of these problems are. There are much other, an awful lot of other bigger things as well in regards to awareness. People are just not being taught how to be aware. In regards to boundaries, that kind of comes in with communication as well, and people aren't communicating very well just naturally, in spite of technology's involvement there or not. Commitment. We are in a world where we are taught to basically not commit. We are only taught to commit to things that are very aggressively thrown on us, like political ideologies and things like that. We aren't told, really brought in to commit to people. We are brought in to commit to ideas or things. Yeah, we are brought to kind of look at a brand and attach ourselves to it. We aren't there to take a look at just a person necessarily and invest in them wholly. They will, if you do so, then it becomes a celebrity thing more so than just a two-way street. And that's where, again, we run into these problems of people, especially people in some relationships, putting people up on pedestals that those people can't stay up on. And so then it becomes so miserable and horrible later on when there's the realization that person doesn't belong there, but they've already put them there. And so it just kind of spirals and breaks down and isn't a happy situation anymore. So then, how can you tell who's to blame when these troubles are occurring? Simple. Both of you. Everyone in that relationship is to blame, to one extent or another. Yeah? Because those four things, the lack of awareness, the lack of boundaries, lack of commitment, lack of the communication problems, all of those things very much are two-person jobs. Yeah? You can't communicate solely by yourself in a room and help the other person kind of work things out. You can't come to a unified understanding of what a thing means without having the communication and establishing those boundaries. Yeah, people can't always be aware of things if there isn't that communication. And in regards to commitment, if there's no confidence in the relationship, if you're not willing to work together on things, then again, there's a good chance that things are going to break down over time. So it's very much a 50-50 thing, and you can't, in regards to who's to blame, well, you're both to blame, but you're also neither of you are to blame, because if as soon as you start identifying one or other of you, or even at times both of you, as the bad guy, then it removes any hope of kind of getting into a decent dialogue afterwards to try and repair things and make things better. The next couple are less general, but things like, why is so and so treating me different here compared to in front of his friends, and or her friends. Simply put, relationships are hard, they're difficult, they're scary, and we're afraid of judgment. A new relationship where they will be as open with you and straightforward with you as possible, but then they have this persona in front of their friends that they need to maintain. That's what they're going to do. It's why if you want to do well with a relationship, try and get on with their friends, because their friends a lot of the time are going to be a huge influence on your partner, and sometimes to your detriment, sometimes to theirs to one degree or another, but it still comes down to, why are they treating you differently? They might be insecure, they might be worried about the way that others see it, they may be even if their friends love you, they may then be worried that you will move on to someone else from their friend group. Especially if it's a new relationship, it's only just formed, there's no kind of evidence for them to base any confidence on. It can be a tough thing for people to work around. But simply put, bear with it. I would say just kind of go with it, maybe bring it up with the person and see if they know why they're doing it, what their thoughts are on it. But again, it's a case of let that just run on. If it goes on forever and ever and ever, then put a stop to it by all means. But for the most part, if it's just a little thing that's rolling on, then for the first couple of months or something, bring it up, have a discussion around it, but otherwise don't worry too much would be what I'm saying. And then the next question is why are they not saying I love you back? Simply put, I love you has a huge, I mean, it's just words. It's daft the amount of importance that we put on these things, but for the most part, it's just words. But it potentially carries a lot of meaning with it, and especially when you say I love you and I say I love you, that doesn't necessarily mean that we mean the same thing when we're saying it to our partners. And so, and it doesn't mean that they mean the same thing even as us when they say it back. Again, there's that communication, understanding, and development of boundaries and things, which we'll go into in another video entirely about boundaries and stuff later on. But in regards to this specific question, it's a big deal. You know, it's someone being honest and potentially going, in this phrase, I'm investing all of these emotions that I have in relation to you and putting them straight in front of you. You know, please reciprocate. It can be scary. It can be tough. It's a big deal. And people, again, when you're around people, if you're saying it, then there may be a good chance that they feel that they will be judged for returning the favor in regards to saying I love you back or whatever else. You know, it's, give it time, allow for some time for people to for them to get used to it, for them to see how things span out. Depends on exactly how quickly you've said it as well, but you know, otherwise go and talk to that person, see why, you know, and that's all I can really offer in regards to that one, you know. I think, yeah, I think that's kind of it. Those are the questions that I've got noted down here. If you've got any other questions, guys, then please drop them down in the comments. And otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.